October of 2019 came. At the time, I was just 16. I was spending the night at my 18-year-old best friend Tommy's place when I had the brilliant notion to go for a late-night walk. I wasn't meant to be there, and his parents weren't expected home till the morning, but that was all part of the fun. We got out of the home at about 7 o'clock and went for a walk without any specific plan. We were just being mischievous and bored. Tommy lived in the country, which at night was a little eerie and forlorn. It enhanced the atmosphere of the Halloween and fall scenery. I discovered a pumpkin patch, and to be honest, we overindulged. We flung pumpkins everywhere and completely trashed the area. We enjoyed ourselves, but I felt it was best to keep things moving once we became a bit rowdy. I said, "Hey man, maybe it's time to head out." "Hey, what are you afraid of?" "Whoa, I had no idea you were such a wimp." Tommy then proceeded to crush the pumpkins that we had earlier thrown around, grabbing some tools that looked like a sledgehammer. He destroyed perhaps 20 of them, one after the other. I took a stand when it came to damaging property, even if I acknowledged that creating a mess in the first place wasn't acceptable. That is incorrect. Man, someone has to pick things up. Do you not care? So, I did. We heard and spotted a car in the distance, so we opted to be cautious and dipped out in case it was a police car patrolling the area. We rushed into the nearby cornfield and hid there. I recall running for maybe 5 minutes straight without stopping and without any sense of direction. Not only did we not know where we were, but the corn was over 8 or 9 feet tall, making it difficult for us to see. I suddenly realized I was alone when I paused to gather my breath. Not only was it growing darker by the moment, but I was also becoming increasingly disoriented. Tommy was nowhere to be heard when I called out for him. "You're not hilarious, dude. This place is unknown to me." I yelled, "Stop playing around with me." The panic began to set in after searching for Tommy for a few minutes. I didn't know which way to go, and it seemed like whichever direction I took, I would only end up being farther away from my goal. Before I was able to leave the cornfield, I had probably been there for at least 30 minutes, but I was clueless as to my whereabouts. My path was completely different. Perhaps I wasn't. To be honest, I have no idea. I was certain that I was lost and that I didn't know where I was. I was terrified, but not as terrified as I had been about Tommy. His pranking had never gone this far from him before. Although we used to be quite the jokers, this is going to be too much. Even for Tommy, after walking for about a quarter mile, I came into a person in all black hurrying towards their van. They climbed inside and drove off before you could say quick enough. Tommy was never seen by anyone again. I then contacted my mother to come get me, and together we dialed 911. There was a ludicrous rumor that ran throughout the school that I killed him. Geez, I don't think most people believe that rubbish. Do I seem like I could pull that off? For God's sake, I was best friends with F. It was a mid-November night, damp and chilly. Most places still had their Halloween decorations up. Around 8 o'clock at night, I put on some headphones and strolled to the park close to my house. I had to travel down this eerie route for about 5 minutes to get to the park. The only reason it felt spooky was that it was completely black outside, and I was unable to see anything. However, this trail has a bit of history. On Halloween night in 2005, a mother came here with her daughter and killed her by strangulation, believing she would get away with it. She was an utter failure. The cops were the target of the cat's final attempt to play cat and mouse before it dug its fangs into her. She was taken into custody, accused of first-degree murder, and given the death penalty. That defies argumentation. I've heard other stories about these forests, but I'm not sure how real they are. However, there is one story that I am positive is true. That's not even the subject of this narrative. I don't believe in ghosts or anything like that. Though it's not necessarily something that has a soul, I do sort of think that both positive and negative energy may exist. There might be more things out there that are invisible to the naked sight. That's all I have to say. More than anything, this story is about an inexplicable experience I had while hiking this trail. And for this story, I'm going to refer to it as the haunted trail. I heard something coming from the trees to my left while I was approximately halfway through the trail. As soon as I looked over my shoulder, I saw a dark figure that terrified me until I realized it was simply a scarecrow, just a decorative piece. I shrugged it off and figured that must be the reason I felt like I was being watched. However, what was the sound? I will present it to you in its raw, unadulterated state, even though I am aware that it is not very coherent. You have the option to believe me or not. I heard my name a few seconds later and continued to walk. He said, "Marky, you need to go." The voice had a typical tone to it. However, it was coming from in front of me. I didn't have a hallucination. I don't have any mental diseases, nor am I psychotic. It was all too genuine, but all I could see was darkness. I'm not claiming it was a ghost, and I'm not claiming someone I knew was playing pranks on me. Not that it wasn't one of those things, mind you. I'm trying to explain that I have no idea what the whole point was. Others think that the mother or the daughter haunts these forests. Sincerely, I doubt it. In addition, the voice I heard was male. Perhaps demons are genderless. Jokes aside, though. I was so frightened out and the atmosphere was destroyed that, as I finished the trail, I abandoned the area and the plan to visit the park and took a different route home. My trek took an additional 25 minutes, but I was not going to walk through those woods again. And I'm pleased I didn't, and I sincerely won't ever again, because that night when I left, a woman was strangled to death, the same method that one woman killed her daughter, but no one ever found out who did it. And it's absurd. Have I avoided a bullet? Does anyone I know work as a murderer? Why did they leave me alone? What is meant by it? Even after putting in a lot of effort to understand this circumstance, it still seems bizarre to me. And it's a good thing nobody else was there. I have never in my life shared this tale with anyone I know. I have only shared it anonymously on Reddit and this site. I would be considered a witness and even a suspect if I told the police. I therefore desired no such attention. It's not something I want to accept responsibility for. No, I'm grateful. This happened 3 years ago, a week before Halloween. I intended to treat myself to a small holiday from the routine of daily life with my brother Kevin. Most of the time, we both accept that we led basic lives. It's wonderful to indulge yourself and live a bit sometimes. Isn't that the main purpose of life? After searching Airbnb, we were able to find a reasonably priced place to stay for $90 a night. Our planned stay was to be 2 nights. It was a tiny A-frame cabin tucked up 2 miles into the forest. At first, it was very amazing, and a major draw for us. We could not have asked for more. A private beach, large speakers for music, a bonfire, a barbecue, and a pool table. All we needed to carry was food, alcohol, and a few other essentials. You may understand what I mean when I say this if you have ever stayed at an Airbnb. Although being at someone else's home is unusual, it's not inherently uncomfortable, even though you are private. Perhaps it just took some getting accustomed to for me. I've heard wild tales in the past that, to be completely honest, I never would have imagined happening to us. But I've personally experienced that anything may happen to anyone. We unpacked and settled in as soon as we got here. By the time we finished and had our pizza, I was sipping my first beer. It was already 6 o'clock. After a bit of guys being boys, we decided to light a fire. At one point, I joked that it was kind of eerie out there. The property was equipped with a few cameras. It was unnerving, even though we had been informed about them before coming. The 2 cameras in the backyard area were the ones I saw the most. And one overlooked the patio and the hot tub, while the other sort of overlooked the entire backyard. I presume this was done to allow the camera to take better video because the motion sensor would activate whenever there was any movement and turn on the light. We laughed when I joked that they were probably spying on us. Bro, not at all. But what if they were? After all, we wouldn't truly know, would we? When I considered it that way, it was eerie, the ambiguity. But we ignored it, carried on with our drinking, and even picked up some pool. We enjoyed ourselves. We finally went to bed about 3 in the morning. We didn't get much sleep, about 2 hours, before waking up at 8 in the morning. I'm not sure what it was, but on the second day, I had trouble settling in. To be honest, I didn't feel like staying another night because something didn't feel right. And then, after approximately an hour, things started to become worse. I discovered something that the owner had presumably left hidden. I discovered an image. Pictures of innumerable visitors staying here were present, men and women, either in photographs of people having sex or naked in the shower, and just a ton of more horrifying stuff. Too much for me to go into here. It was worse than you could have ever imagined. Knowing that he most likely had photos of me now that I was undressed and changed into new clothing made me feel ill to my stomach. That jerk was snooping on us and taking his time. You can bet your bottom dollar that I informed Airbnb of this, brought him before the judge, and forced him to pay hefty fines. Though, in my opinion, he ought to be imprisoned. He was rather well off and was given a free pass. Unsen, he has been threatening me and my friend, claiming that I will pay for what I did. Even though I've blocked him on every social media platform, he still manages to find me there by creating new profiles and other things. He is essentially following my friend and me around. He made my first and last Airbnb experience miserable. I doubt I'll ever give it another go, although the establishment only had 2 ratings. I suppose we didn't consider that to be a warning sign at the time.